I know you're working on some exciting projects right now in terms of reaching millennials. What are some other ways we can reach that millennial Christian audience with the message of Israel and the Jewish people and activate them, educate, and energize them?
Well, I think information is certainly key. Programs like this are putting that information out. I think that one of the things that's important is to make sure that the next generation values scholarship.
Yeah.
You know, oftentimes they're willing to believe exactly what they hear instead of investigate what they're hearing to find out if it's true. There's a passage of scripture in the New Testament that talks about Bereans, and these were people who listened to the Apostle Paul, and they told him, they said, we like what you're saying, we want to go check it out in the scripture. And if what you're saying in the scripture connects, then we're going to come back and listen more. And I think that it's important for young people to take on the personal responsibility of that Berean attitude.
Yeah.
Hey, I've listened to what you've said. I'm going to go find out if it's true. And if it is true, then I'm going to walk in it. If it's not true, I'm going to ignore it. You know, we've got a growing population of young leaders in Kufi, and some of them are here in Cornerstone Church, and some of them are all over college campuses around the country, and some of them are, you know, really just starting to wake up to the reality of what's happening in the Middle East, and they're saying, you know what, this is right and that's wrong, this is truth and that's a lie, and once they identify that, they become so solid in their willingness to stand up and speak up. It's really a dynamic change.
Personally, I feed off the energy of our young people at Kufi on campus and the Israel Collective, our millennial program. Pastor Matt, last question. You've laid out some of the threats, the BDS threat. We have obviously Iran and ISIS, Hamas, Hezbollah, all these threats. Why is it more important now more than ever for Christians to get activated and get involved and join Christians United for Israel?
Well, I think it's more important now than ever because the threats are more severe. You know, whenever you're talking about an Iranian regime that has a nuclear agenda, those are certain things that many people sitting at home, they say, well, I just really can't affect that, but you can. Whenever people get involved in an organization like Kufi that is so actively staying connected with representatives in the government to say, listen, the Palestinian agenda is to accomplish these things. You need to be aware. I see representatives, I see members of the House and members of the Senate appreciative of that information because it's not always presented to them in that light whenever it shows up. And they recognize that there are ways that they, as representatives from the states that they are elected in, can really make an influence on a global scale whenever they decide that they're not going to vote in favor of something that is going to be of harm to Israel. The only voice that is going to stand up and speak up in that moment in time is going to be those of Bible-believing Christians who have a conviction about truth and about where we need to be with Israel. If we don't, no one will. And if no one does, then God is going to hold all of us accountable for what happens.
Amen. Pastor Matt, thank you so much for unpacking it and laying it out in such a beautiful way. And I have to mention, John Hagee Ministries doesn't just talk the talk when it comes to supporting Israel, the Jewish people. You're quite literally walking the walk. Close to $100 million overall donated to these causes over the years at the Night to Honor Israel. So it's great stuff. Coming up, my final thoughts on how you can get activated and make a difference for Israel. It's time to be a Cornelius. Find out how after the break.